It's Game Boy World, and what hath God wrought? Asked Samuel Morse's famous demonstration of the telegraph. 150 years later, the question might have been, what hath Gunpei wrought? And the answer would be, puzzle games, out the wazoo. You know the drill by now. Ishidō, The Way of Stones, comes to Game Boy by way of a computer game that ended up showing up on every imaginable platform of its day. Despite its Japanese title, Ishidō literally means The Way of Stones. It's totally an American invention. If that sounds a bit like Shanghai, which you'll remember as Game Boy's very first third-party release back in 1989, well, hold on to your pants. Ishidō's graphics were produced by none other than Brody Lockhart, the original creator of Shanghai. We've come full circle. And in its way, Ishidō functions effectively as an inversion of Shanghai. Where that game involved removing tiles from a board by creating matches, Ishidō tasks players with adding tiles to a board by creating matches. As with many Game Boy puzzlers, it's pretty decent. The game received rave reviews from contemporary magazines. But the sheer glut of puzzle games on this particular platform undermines its specialness. It's probably more approachable on other systems anyway. Game Boy's monochrome visuals don't ruin the game, because the tiles are nicely drawn and designed, but it's a lot easier to take in the board at a glance when you have color to work with. Ishidō presents players with a 12x8 board and a bag of 66 stones. Each stone comes in one of 6 different colors, with one of 6 different symbols imprinted on it. Each combination of stone and color appears twice. At the outset of the game, 6 stones appear on the board, 1 at each outside corner, and 2 placed corner to corner in the center of the board. The initial stones are determined at random. Each color and pattern is represented once, but the specifics vary with every session. So even though the game begins with the same general board placement, the precise configuration varies every time. Similarly, you draw stones randomly from the bag, and you can only place a stone adjacent to a tile that matches either its symbol or color. To set a tile in a space surrounded on multiple sides, it needs to match either symbol or color pattern for all adjacent stones. This means the most valuable and most difficult move in the game is the four-way. It's only possible to place a tile in a space surrounded on every side if your stone matches either the color or symbol of all 4 pre-existing stones. While Ishidō tracks players' score, the real challenge inherent in the game is simply to complete the board without running out of valid moves. It doesn't seem difficult at first, but the longer you play, the more constricting the tiles become. Because everything is drawn at random, and there are so many match factors, it's tough to leave the board open enough to be able to place the last few tiles. Ishidō offers a few different play options. You can play a single game, a tournament mode, take on the computer with alternating turns, and play against another person via link cable. These modes all boil down to the same basic play premise, the same board, the same tile arrangements, the same pieces, but they keep the game from being the same solo experience every time. Unlike many Game Boy creations, which hail from Japan and whose histories have long since vanished due to language barriers and the respectful discretion of Japanese designers, Ishidō's history is well documented online. Co-creator Ian Gilman's website offers a brief but informative look back at the game's origins. Perhaps most interesting is the game's intersection with Atari Lynx. Ishidō was originally set to be published by Epyx, the company that designed the Lynx hardware and most of its launch titles. While the game was initially slated for personal computers like the Mac and Amiga, not the Lynx, the bum deal Epyx forged with Atari for Lynx rights ended up destroying the company and forcing Ishidō's creators to go solo. So they published the game on their own terms, shipping the initial release in a gorgeous handmade walnut box before licensing it to Accolade. Accolade and its sub-licensees, which were Nexoft, ASCII, and Publishing International in the case of the Game Boy version, released the game for nearly a dozen different platforms. It's safe to say Ishidō's creators made bank, and deservedly so. Tiring as Game Boy puzzlers can be, Ishidō really is a well-designed and complex board game. It certainly deserves its plaudits. On a platform less bogged down with matching and tile-based puzzle games, It probably shines. I just can't muster up a lot of enthusiasm for Ishidō as part of Game Boy World, but blame that on me rather than the game. I'm an old man and I'm very tired. So very tired of Game Boy puzzlers. Next time on Game Boy World, we go from puzzles to pizza. Hallelujah and cowabunga.